If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 12 of the 2D Film Club podcast. I am one of the co-hosts, Nate Stevenson, and I got Cody with me.
Did you forget the name of our podcast for a second
No, I didn't forget
it. I'm just kidding.
Wow, I see how it is. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Not too shabby. How are you doing?
Doing good. Why pretty good? Do we need to talk about it? What's up, man?
You know, my nose has been stuffy.
You got COVID?
And yeah, maybe. I'm starting to think I do. I feel like I got something. Like my nose has not been the same for, I feel like, 2 months.
Did you
It's
say
weird.
taste and smell?
No, I can still, well, I can taste, but I can't really smell too well, to be honest.
Uh-oh.
So,
Red alert.
watch out.
Do you have allergies?
Yeah, I do. I don't think that this is allergies though.
Well, I feel like everybody
Um,
I'm talking to right now, like that are sick, they're like, it's just really bad allergy season.
well, this is definitely not the time to be like, yeah, I'm sick,
No, I know.
but don't worry, it's
No, I
not,
know
it's not
exactly.
COVID.
Right? It's so
If
funny.
you gotta blame it on them allergies so people don't freak out.
Yeah, like one of my coworkers, she's been sick for like 2 weeks or something. She's like, it's just allergies. It's just allergies. I was like, okay, get that figured out.
If you say so. That's fun. Good times.
Well, awesome. Um, well, we had a fun podcast last week, talking about The Exorcist and Suspiria and everything. Was there any other like
hmm
spooky movies that you've watched or any other movies you've watched this week?
I've watched some more. There's only one movie I want to talk about real quick that I watched. Uh, called Host. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a new movie that came out. I think it came out like a few months ago. And I kind of thought it just looked dumb, and I wasn't really too interested in it. But I have Shutter right now, and it's a Shutter. It's on Shutter, and I decided to give it a shot, and I actually enjoyed it. It's another like a found footage horror film that was filmed during the pandemic, so everyone's like talking on Zoom or whatever because of coronavirus and everything. And they get together in a little Zoom call each week to stay in touch with their friends or whatever, and they meet with a medium where she leads them in a seance where they're trying to like talk to someone that died or whatever. But what happens is, I think one of the kids, like when they're calling out this name, like they just made up a person, and it wasn't. They just wanted to do it for fun, and they bring in some bad spirits and whatnot. And it was actually pretty fun. It's definitely reminded me of like Unfriended. Did you ever see that movie?
Mm.
No? So it's kind of like Unfriended. I haven't seen the newer one. But I think that this one's better than those. And the other thing that this one has going for it is that it's only like, I think, like 59 minutes or something like that. It's super short. So it goes by real quick. Um, and it kind of gets right into it. And I think the scares were actually pretty effective. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of scary. Like I wasn't expecting it to be scary at all.
Where did you watch it?
Or It's on
Oh,
Shudder.
okay, yeah. That's what you said.
Yeah, so it's fun. It's not amazing or anything, but it's if you want to watch something that's kind of scary and short, um, this is a pretty good little movie.
So on a scale
I'd
of 1
recommend
to
it.
10 spooky pumpkins, what would it be?
I give it like a 6 or 7 spooky pumpkins.
Okay, that's pretty
Yeah, I
spooky.
think, if you have the right expectations, um, it's a fun little flick. Yeah, nothing too crazy or not super scary, but there's definitely a few moments where I was like, oh, that's kind of scary. And I think that the scares in this movie, I feel like this movie I mean, Unfriended definitely didn't have a big budget or anything either, but I feel like that movie there's way more like marketing and it's kind of a big deal when it came out, sort of. I mean, for what it was. But the scares in that movie, I don't think were that great, and there really weren't that many. Like I feel like the scares kind of sucked. But this movie, there are some scares, and there's some kind of cool effects that they use in it. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
Do you think
It's
it's
pretty good.
because you have to do Zoom for school, so now it makes you worried?
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah, well, I definitely think that that's something that this movie has going for it is that it is like the first movie to really come out that has to do with this whole pandemic that I know of really
That's true.
besides Corona zombies or whatever that we were talking about last night.
Yeah, Corona zombies.
which is literally from what I heard at least it's an old zombie movie that they just retitled and gave it like a new intro or something. I have no idea, but it looks terrible. But yeah, it's kind of fun, and it kind of makes it feel like, oh, okay, yeah, we're doing this Zoom stuff too, huh? This is the whole, you know. I mean, and it came out a few months ago too. Like, it didn't just come out; it came out a little while ago. So, the fact that they're able to do what they did with the circumstances and um, whatever budget they had, I think it's pretty effective. It's fun. If you have Shudder, it's worth checking out. Nice short watch.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, man. How about you? What you been watching?
Um, I the only thing I really watched was the movies that, we had for our movie club. But also I watched Halloween Town,
A
classic 1998 Halloween Town on Disney Plus.
heck yeah.
I gave it 2.5 stars. I was actually going into it being like, man, what a classic movie. Like, and then watching it, I was like, this is shit. This is,
Mm,
um,
harsh.
well, I mean, like, it's probably just because, like, I don't know. Maybe like when I was like younger as a kid, like watching it, like seeing like people like walking around with like pumpkins as heads or something like that. When I was younger, it seemed realistic or like it was good, like
Uh-huh.
costume design or whatever. But watching it now, it's like, dude, like these guys did such a bad job. Like they have like a pumpkin head that's covering it, but then they have human hands or something like that. So it's just like, I don't know. It was just bad.
That's funny.
And then the acting was just like off and everything. I mean, it's still like the nostalgia of it. It was fun to watch it, and I
Uh-huh.
watched it with my wife and my son, and my son thought it was like good and everything. So, and I'll
That's good.
I'll probably watch like the other ones too, just because of the season.
Nice.
But other than that,
That's fun. Yeah, I need to watch it again. I haven't seen it in I don't even know when the last time I saw it. Probably like 10 years ago or something.
no, don't lie. You probably watched
Um,
it. You just don't want to admit
no, I mean I'd be proud to
it.
to watch it every year, but it's just one I don't know for whatever reason I just haven't watched it in so long. But I do like them, or I mean I remember liking them, at least. So I'd be interested to watch them again and see how it holds up.
Well, the funny thing is, like, one of the main characters, like, in it, she's, like, on, what's it called? Um, she's Sorry, I'm completely forgetting
In,
her name.
uh,
Kimberly J. Brown. She's like a huge person like on TikTok right now. And so like
oh,
yeah,
really?
people love like seeing her like talk about the movie and everything just because, everybody just
Oh, that's funny.
has such a attachment in a sense to it.
You'll have to send me them TikToks.
Those tickety talks.
No, tickety talks. I need to check that out now. That's funny. That's hilarious.
Well, she was just like making a
Huh.
joke, like sitting down either with her boyfriend or her husband, like the audio of it like was just talking about like it seemed like a classic commercial for like Halloween coming on Disney. And so she's like sitting down, you're like, oh hey, look who it is. It's the girl that was in Halloween Town. So it's kind of funny to see these guys a lot older from like when you like watched it like as a kid and stuff.
That's fun.
But yeah.
That's cute.
But I mean, I
Love
wanted
it.
to watch that new Adam Sandler movie too, Hubie Halloween, but I didn't get a chance to. Did you get a chance to watch it or whatever?
I started, and then it wasn't that I didn't want to keep watching it. It was I was kind of watching it while doing something. Like I was busy. I was like, I'm gonna put this movie on in the background. Like I know I don't need to really pay too much attention. And then I just got busy and or I had to leave and stop it, and so I haven't finished it. But I watched maybe like 30 or 40 minutes of it. And yeah, it's pretty much what I expected it to be. Um, it's I can't get over what Adam Sandler's doing with his voice in the movie, so that's fun. But yeah, I think it's it is what it is. It's fun. I don't know. I'm gonna finish watching it and see how the rest of it is, but it's definitely one of those movies.
One of the funny reviews I saw on Letterboxd, someone gave it 5 stars, and he said, "If you can read this, you're in farting distance." And I'm like, "What?" So I'm just really curious what the hell this movie's about.
Sounds great. I love it. Well, Adam Sandler did say if he gets snubbed at the Oscars, then he's gonna make the worst movie ever. So maybe this is that.
Well, it has a 2.5.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, his other ones, I think, that have been on Netflix. I mean, obviously they haven't been good, but I'm curious. Because Uncut Gems was a good one.
Yeah, it was real good. Are there speaking of like Halloween Town and stuff, you're making me think of like when I was younger and like what movies I'd watch like during October and stuff. Are there any movies that you like used to watch like every October, or did you really care, or like what's that all about?
I mostly like would just watch whatever was on Sci-Fi Channel. So if that was like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or that kind of stuff. But I mean like Disney, like if it had some stuff, I would watch, Halloween Town. It's hard thinking all the way back and being like, wait, what movie was on like that?
Yeah. True.
What about you?
I think the two that I try to always watch are Halloween, like at least just the original one. Sometimes I remember there was times where like on AMC, like they would play all the Halloween movies like throughout October, and I would record them all, and I would try to watch like all of them.
See, you were raised different. You had recording. I didn't have that, man.
Oh, dang, dude. I remember I used to go through to like on AMC. I'd check AMC and like the Sci-Fi Channel, and I can't remember what else. Probably like one or two other channels, and I'd just like look. I'd like scroll through for the next few days and like see if there's anything worth recording. And that's where I first saw like movies like The Exorcist and Alien and like so many of those movies I found on TV and recorded them and would watch them. And then you have to like fast forward through the commercials and. Good times.
I mean that was always fun, like having those like when you would flip through the channels and you had Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and stuff like that. Being able to see like these like Halloween specials that they would have like throughout the month or even on that day. So I remember like watching like a bunch of that stuff, but a lot of times like on Sci-Fi Channel I would just watch whatever was on it. And I can't like think of like specific movies that I watch like every single year, but I know that
Hmm.
during that month I always like try to watch like those types of movies. So like Friday
Yeah,
the 13th, or kind of like what you said, like Alien or something. Because it's always, you gotta tis the season, right?
'tis the season. 'Tis the season. I've also been, for the past few years at least, I've been watching Trick or Treat like every year. Um, it's just fun. It's just a fun Halloween movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's worth watching. I'm probably gonna watch it again this
No, I
year.
haven't. Send it to me.
Okay, I will. I will. It's the one I sent that picture of the character from it, Sam.
Oh, okay.
I went to Spirit Halloween, the Halloween store this weekend, and they had a bunch of stuff from Trick or Treat. Like they had Sam costumes and like all kinds of different. They had like Trick or Treat blankets and all kinds of stuff. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
And it's a
It
it's
was
a
like
movie, you
Spirit
said?
exclusive. Yeah, yeah, it's fun. It's kind of like an anthology horror film where um, it's a few different stories that all happen like the night of Halloween.
Okay.
Um,
It looks good.
yeah, yeah, it's fun. I like it a lot. And apparently they're supposed to be making a Trick or Treat too, but I don't know if that's happening or not. I mean, I guess it's set to come out in 2022, so we'll see. And the original one came out in 2007.
So have you
But
watched Trick or Treat yet this year so far, or?
no, not yet.
'Cause I was just
Not yet,
looking to
but
see maybe where you could watch it, but it looks like you have to buy it or something, which is fine.
shoot,
Shoot, no streaming services.
shoot. That's sad. But yeah, so um,
Is there any like
that's fun.
movie news or anything like that that you?
Well, I saw a couple things. Did you see that Disney rebranded all of the non-MCU Marvel movies as Marvel Legacy movies. So like they're still under the Marvel umbrella, but they're the ones that aren't included in the MCU are now called Marvel Legacy. So I thought that was interesting. And then did you see that I saw something about, I didn't read too much about it, but they were talking about like a couple new Marvel shows that are going to be on Hulu.
Well, they've been
Like an
talking.
animated
No, go ahead. No,
what?
go ahead.
No, like the animated MODOK show. It's supposed to be like a comedy. That looks interesting. Like I just saw a couple pictures. And then Hellstrom, which I don't know anything about that, but that sounds cool. The MODOK one sounds kind of fun. It just looks silly. Like I'm interested.
Well, I mean, I
But
saw that. They're talking about how Doctor Strange 2 is gonna be like the Avengers movie for Phase 4, which will be kind of interesting to see that.
hmm.
Just still, a lot of people are talking about Spider-Man 3 with that whole Electro,
Oh yeah.
all that stuff. Did you see more stuff about that as well after I talked about it, or?
Uh, I yeah, I saw a lot of articles about that and about something else about it too. Oh, I saw yeah, like some article about the guy who played Kingpin in was it in the Daredevil show? He wants to be in Spider-Man 3
Mm,
as Kingpin.
makes sense.
So, yeah, a lot of Spider-Man 3 talk.
Yeah, it's just it's hard to get excited about that kind of stuff when you see like all of these things happening, like in the movie theaters closing down, like Regal shutting all of its theaters down, and then James Bond being pushed back, and Wonder Woman, and then now Dune is being pushed back another year, and Batman's being pushed back like 2 years. So it's just like one of those things. And then I just saw like how Soul, that like new Pixar movie, they're releasing that on Christmas
Hmm.
Day on Disney Plus. So yeah,
Oh
it's not
wow.
even going to theaters anymore. It's just going to be on Disney Plus. They're not doing the
Hmm.
Mulan situation where you have to pay for it. It's going to be free for everybody, but it's like, okay, well, I guess we're literally not going to have any movies in the theater then, because I can't think of anything that's going to be from now until whatever, like next year. Can you?
No,
Yeah.
I mean maybe like a few random things, but yeah, not really. I mean, hey, the War with Grandpa just came out in theaters, so you could go see that. Can't wait with your boy Robert De Niro.
Uh, yeah, it's true. I forgot
Sounds
about
great.
that one.
Sounds like a good time. Yeah, dude, you could go see Shrek in theaters. I see Shrek's playing like at all the theaters
Yeah, you
around
got
here. Like,
Hocus Pocus.
yeah, dude, it's great, dude. What a great time. Great time to be
Might as well
alive.
just do that big gaming private party where you can just take your console to the movie theater and just play video games on the screen. You
That'd be
might as well.
fun. I've always wanted to do that.
Well, Cinemark's doing it, so just drive up and we'll do it.
All right, let's go. Let's do it.
I mean, I'm looking at this like coming soon right now for Cinemark, and is Honest Thief is that a 2020 movie?
I don't even know what that is.
Honest Thief has what's his face in it? Oh man, Liam Neeson.
Nielsen. Liam Nielsen.
Liam Neeson. He's a professional bank robber, agrees to return all the money he stole in exchange for a reduced sentence, but when two FBI agents set him up for murder, he must now go on the run to clear his name and bring them to justice. That comes out October 16th.
Wow.
So if you want to see that, go ahead.
Sounds fantastic.
But that's pretty much it. Like everything else is just other. Yeah, I don't see like anything even farther in advance. The only movies like I
Yeah,
could
no.
see like if it was gonna be far in advance was through the Regal, but now with Regal shutting it down, it's like, yeah, there's no hope. No hope.
No hope.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It's just crazy because you see like everybody like being completely fine, like going everywhere else except a movie theater.
Yeah, pretty much. That's true.
I'm curious like why people don't want to. I mean, do you think they were just like testing the waters by doing like all these like old movies to see like if people would come back? I have no idea. I'm curious.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Oh, yeah, and then so the AMC theaters here, I saw a lot of them are now gonna be only open like on the weekends. I think that's the same with like some of the Regal theaters too,
Hmm.
um, and then I think the theater that I normally go to, I think that they're closed now on like Wednesday and Thursday,
Damn,
and then yeah. So yeah, man,
it's crazy.
it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, right. What a time to start a movie podcast, right?
I know,
It's
I
okay. At
know.
least
Well, at least
yeah,
we
we got the
got
classics.
yeah, man. We got lots of good movies to talk about.
So, was there any
Um,
other movies that you watched that you wanted to talk about? Or
yeah, I mean, I did watch some other things, but nothing that I really want to talk about or get into.
not?
Really, not feeling it. But oh, I was gonna say I saw. Did you see the clip of the new Monster Hunter movie?
I
That's gonna.
saw something about it, but I didn't watch it.
I watched a little clip. It was kind of like the making of thing, and they showed a couple clips of some of the monsters, and then it showed the director. What's his name? Paul W.S. Anderson, one of the greatest directors of all time, as we all know. He he was meeting with some of the game developers, and kind of I guess they were trying to make the monsters accurate, like make them like how they are in the game, which I appreciate that. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to watch the movie because I'm curious, um, but usually video game movies for the most part they always suck. And yeah, so I was curious because I think it could be cool, but it just kind of looks like another one of those movies,
Another spy movie.
another spy movie with monsters. and big swords.
I mean, the little clip that I watched or whatever, I mean, it looks interesting. So we'll have
Yeah,
to see. I mean, if that's what future movies have for us, then it's gonna be what a time to be alive, right?
that's right.
It's gonna
Can't wait.
it'll win an Oscar again. It'll be that and Hubie Halloween. Which one?
Hubie, Hubie better win all the Oscars.
And then it'll be a classic rewatch. Like in 20 years, we'll have to do a review episode for it and be like, yeah, so what'd you think of that? Remember when that came out?
Classic.
Exactly.
Classic Hubie.
Well, we
Cool.
had a great week of watching some classic movies, though. Speaking about that, we were able to
We
watch,
watched a few movies.
yeah, Evil Dead 2, and Punishment Park. So,
yeah. So you want to talk about Evil Dead first or Punishment?
let's talk about Punishment Park.
Okay, okay. Let's talk about Punishment Park then.
I will be completely honest. Like, the little synopsis that I read, I thought it was gonna be something a little bit different. It definitely had a lot of good reviews, so I was really excited to watch it. And when I was thinking of like Halloween movies that we could watch, I think I was looking like in the thriller like list or horror. I can't remember. And I saw this and it had really good reviews. So I was like, oh, this sounds kind of interesting. Like, sounds like one of those movies that you see now like all the time where, like Hunger Games or something like that. I was like, okay, it has like this plot of the film taking place in the 1970, like Vietnam War is escalating, and President Richard Nixon, he is facing like a growing anti-war movement. So instead of what he's doing is anybody that is like a risk to like internal security, that are like against like the war movement or like civil rights, like any of that kind of stuff, these people have a choice of either going to jail or they go to Punishment Park, where they have to go like walk across the desert like 50 miles, and they have like 3 days to just survive like in the heat and like with nothing, just walking basically. And if like the cops roll up on them, because the cops are hunting them, the cops either arrest them, and if the people don't comply, then the cops kill them. And I'm like, okay, well, this sounds interesting. Let's watch this. And then, as I'm watching it, it was like a fictional documentary, like a mockumentary thing.
Mockumentary.
So I did like enjoy like how they filmed it. Like it had that realism to it, and like what they were talking about. Like it's definitely like stuff that like you saw back then, or maybe what you would see today with what people are talking about. So it was like definitely like a really interesting movie, but I feel like I was blindsided by by the whole thing. I was like, I wanted like more of that like hunting aspect of it.
You wanted more. We wanted more cops killing people. Huh? You like that, don't you? That's funny. Yeah, it's definitely. I still think it's a. I still, you can consider it kind of a horror film. Yeah. It is. The situation is scary, and the fact that it is like this fake documentary, and the way that they did it, I thought was done really well, and it feels kind of real for the most part. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the actors were really good at portraying these characters, and just the whole situation is just really just crazy, and like it seems so insane, but also there's something about it that feels real, and like, oh, this could happen, like something crazy like this could be a thing. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's definitely really interesting. And I think as far as I've seen a few of these like mockumentary type films, and I mean this is definitely a pretty good one. And I guess I haven't seen that many, but they're always interesting. Like the whole format of making a movie that way. Like, let's make a fake documentary is intriguing. Especially during that time. I mean, it was 1971.
Mm-hmm. The budget was $95,000.
It's crazy.
Which makes sense. Like they didn't really have to do that much. It's just
Yeah.
people literally walking.
Yeah, I was reading about like how there's like basically like no one on the crew. Like it was like a minimal crew and yeah, just really really cheap to
I
make.
mean, what I did like about the movie though was the fact that, all you would hear in the background was just gunshots the whole time. It's
Yeah.
like, jeez, like.
Yeah, that part of it is definitely scary. Like, you just yeah, there's gunshots throughout the whole thing. You're just like, oh
And I
dang.
feel like with the buildup as well of them like walking through the desert and like trying to run away from these cops and everything, like even though there wasn't like necessarily anything dramatic that was happening, you still had some suspense like, guys, you need to walk, like, or like, holy shit, like these guys don't have water, they don't have food, they don't have anything. And then you would hear like the person talking about the timeline of how long they've been in the desert and the update of like how hot it is in the desert as well. So it's just like that aspect of it was kind of like a little heart bumping a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Um I was reading also that the director he originally had like a really detailed like script that he wanted to go
Yeah.
by, but he let the cast kind of improvise and let them react like how they would react, and I think that kind of gave the movie a little bit of I don't know, felt a little bit more natural, and it helped it make it feel believable in that way. I think just from those performances and like the improvised parts. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I didn't know exactly what to expect. When you sent me this movie, I was like I've never heard of this, but yeah, like there's a lot of good reviews. I'm like it sounds really interesting. I mean, the whole concept of it sounds really intriguing and pretty dark. And I was like, all right, cool. And I really liked it. And you can find it on YouTube too.
oh, you can.
Yeah, I found the whole movie is on YouTube, and um, I was able to watch it there, which was nice.
Well, I'm looking at this website right now from it's just like the Omaha World Herald or something like that, and they were ranking the top 50 best mockumentaries, and District 9
Mm.
is number one, and then
Oh wow.
Punishment Park is number three.
But where is this is Spinal Tap?
Number two.
Okay, good. As long as it's in the top three.
Yeah, so District 9 and then this is Spinal Tap and then Punishment Park was number three. So that's kind of interesting to see that. And then you have like all these other ones as well, but yeah, I mean a lot of people
That's
like,
cool.
it's like 50 best movies that you haven't seen, like in Punishment Park is there, and then people talking about how this movie kind of relates to things that continue to go on throughout time even after this movie came out. So it is kind of interesting. So, but
Yeah, it's a definitely it's a good like social commentary kind of film, and I I really like movies that do that. Like I love like that's why I love George A. Romero's movies. Like he makes these zombie movies, but they all have like some serious like commentary about society in them, and I really love when horror movies do that. And this is not like your typical,
mhm.
like horror film, but it is, kind of a really crazy escalated version of something that could potentially happen. Like it feels real, and that's what makes it feel scary. Is like this is something that could happen.
What was like a part in the movie that you thought, I don't know, where you were just like, I don't know, like what was the part that you liked?
Um, one one part that I liked, I don't know. I kind of liked it at the end. Like there was that one young, I can't remember if he was a cop or whatever, but he killed someone, and like the documentary crew is like asking him about it, and he's like, I can't even remember what he said, but he's like, I didn't want to kill him. I didn't want to. He's just talking about how he's like, I didn't want to do it or whatever. And then also some of the other parts, just like when they're asking like some of the cops questions like in the documentary or whatever, and like how there's that other guy who is like, yeah, they keep asking him like, have you ever killed someone before? And he's like, yeah, I've killed someone. And like, how'd you feel afterwards? He's like, I didn't feel a thing, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Just like I just did it. I kind of like some of that stuff. I like some of the. I like the dialogue in general between
Yeah, the
some of the
conversations where
characters.
they had like their trial or whatever, the conversations
Yeah,
that the people would have like with these higher up government officials or whatever. And it was interesting too that it wasn't like this like normal setting where it, obviously like a court setting, you have a judge and you might have like all these other higher up people, but what was interesting about this one is they had like our state representative, and then it's almost like they had like this mother-like figure that was like a part of like this society like on the panel, and then you had like a factory worker like on the panel. And so it's really interesting to see that these people that were judging the anti-war or like civil rights movement people were just people that you would think were just normal everyday people, but in reality they were. So I liked how they kind of did that. It was interesting to see the whole dialogue that the people were having.
yeah, I like that too.
But the whole time, like I kept thinking, they were just the whole part where they're showing the cops like how to work the guns and how many shots they probably would have to fire or whatever if they had to. It was just interesting because the whole time I was thinking, I'm like, well, these guys are walking. Are the cops just gonna like start walking behind them and then just catch up to them? And then like the next scene, you just see the cops driving. I'm like, well, like this, well, obviously this isn't fair at all. Like they were bound to lose no matter what.
Yeah,
So that's just like I feel like
for sure.
a good message about the movie. It's just like, yeah, like there was no winner. You know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah,
like we were talking about the cop that said like, I killed someone and I didn't feel anything. It's just kind of like that situation where you're like, well, you took someone's life, but that's got to be a little bit more concerning than what, and then you had that whole war dialogue and then these people running and yeah, so it was an interesting movie, that's for sure. But Donde es la spooky, right?
it's spooky.
Yeah, it was spooky.
Los Spookies. Hey, speaking of Los Spookies, when the heck is Los Spookies season 2 happening?
I don't
Because I
know.
know they said it's gonna happen, and I haven't heard anything. I just remembered that. I really loved Los Spookies season 1.
It said it's gonna be
It's
back.
on HBO. Los Spookies. It's very funny. Anyway, but yeah, man, good movie. Interesting movie. Never heard of it, and I enjoyed it. I think it's worth checking out, and it's free on YouTube. So,
Go ahead.
I think it's Go ahead and
Number
watch it.
3 best
Enjoy.
mockumentary. So
Yeah, heck yeah. It made me think of another mockumentary movie that I've seen called Man Bites Dog. It's about a killer. So it's like this killer that goes around. He's like he just is. It's like a killer that's vlogging his life basically.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, it's pretty good. I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't remember a lot about it, but I do remember it was
It's on HBO Max.
pretty messed up. Oh, great! So check that out too if you are into these kind of mockumentary
Man Bites Dog
movies.
is number 8.
Watch that. Oh, nice.
I'll have to look into it.
Good stuff.
Well, that's all I have for Punishment Park. There wasn't really anything else. But
Same. I don't know. I don't even know what else to say about it, but it is interesting, and I can definitely say I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it.
Definitely.
It's unique. There's a lot that I enjoyed about it, and I think it's worth checking out. And it's pretty short too. It's like an hour and 27 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that was the theme of all of our movies that we watched. They were all like under like
Yeah,
an hour and a half.
yeah,
You could have watched them
yeah. I
back to
watched.
back, and it just would have been like you're watching like a Netflix 1 hour show or something.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we watched a few really short movies, which is great.
So, what would you rate Punishment Park?
I'd give it 4 out of 5
Yeah, same. I gave it 4 out of 5
stars.
stars.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I mean, it definitely is. Like I said, I haven't seen very many mockumentary movies,
Yeah,
but it's definitely one of the better ones, and I can see why. Um,
people speak highly.
why. Yeah, like I get why people like it so much. Um, it's good, and I feel like it has a lot to say. It feels meaningful. Like it feels like the movie has a purpose, and I think it does a good job of kind of getting that message across.
This country was built off violence. Good quote.
Yeah, there's a lot of good little quotes
Uh
like
huh.
that.
Yeah,
I
like
think
as
a
I was
lot.
watching, like that's what I kept like thinking about. I was like, man, there's a lot of interesting quotes and
Yeah,
no.
and a lot of it sounds like a lot of what's said is all like a lot of it is improvised, and a
Uh
lot of
huh.
like the actors had control of what they were saying, and so I think that kind of what makes it so unique and like good.
I think my best like dialogue that was happening was like person that was being like held like on trial was like that 19-year-old like um girl that was like a musician or something like that. And I thought like all the points that she was talking about and how they were talking to her and everything, it was just funny because everybody else was like older or like a male or something like that. So it
Hmm.
was interesting seeing it from that perspective of someone that was younger and everything. So,
Yeah.
but well,
Heck yeah.
Evil Dead.
Evil Dead?
Yes.
Evil Dead. Yes. I've been excited to watch this with you because I know you haven't seen
I
The Evil Dead.
It's funny because I feel like I have seen it.
Oh
I
yeah?
feel like I have seen it before,
Maybe you have.
but maybe not all the way.
Nice. But you realize that you've seen Army of Darkness though,
Yes.
right? Or
Yeah, I
you've
did.
seen some of it or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah. Awesome.
Immediately, like when they like in Evil Dead 2, when they showed like the Book of the Dead pages that were missing, and showed the guy with like the Ash with like the hand as like um the chainsaw or whatever. I was like, yeah,
Hmm.
man, that's an Army of Darkness, like duh.
Yeah.
So
That's funny. That's kind of, I think my first introduction to Evil Dead was also through Army of Darkness, and I also didn't have any idea that they were connected for a long time. Um, I remember when I was a kid, I don't think I ever watched all of Army of Darkness, but I remember my cousins were like big fans of Army of Darkness, and they loved it. And I remember seeing some of it and thought it was cool. And then I didn't see it again until later, when I was a teenager or something. And I watched all of the Evil Dead movies and Army of
did
Darkness.
you ever play the video game?
No, but I did see that there was a video game. That's funny. Like an old game on. I don't even know what it was on, but yeah, that looks like a good one. But yeah, I mean, Evil Dead is now, it was like a low budget little horror film that now is like a big franchise. I mean, you got a video game, there's now a TV series, which I think is over now, but they did a few seasons of that. There's, the trilogy of movies. There's a remake from 2013, and been it's become a big part of pop culture and just kind of a classic horror franchise. Um, but yeah, it's directed by Sam Raimi, um, who notably directed the Spider-Man trilogy. Um,
It's so funny to think about.
yeah, and he he made a before he made The Evil Dead, he made a short film called Within the Woods, which was kind of like a prototype short film that was kind of supposed to um, help him get financing for the full movie, um, which I have never seen Within the Woods, but I want to watch it now. I don't think I've seen it at least. But so Evil Dead is it's kind of a supernatural horror film. It's one of the first, a lot of things about this movie are now, seen in a lot of horror films, and some tropes of horror films are, it's been around for so long and you've seen it in so many movies, but like Going to a Cabin in the Woods, like this is one of the first movies to do that, like this kind of cabin in the woods kind of movie. This movie came out in 1981. And I don't think Evil Dead necessarily was the first, I don't think it was the first like gore fest kind of movie, but it's definitely one of them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And definitely one of the first like kind of bigger ones that kind of gained a cult following. And
Well, the funny thing about it is like some of like the gore and stuff, it's like excessive amounts where it's not like you're like, oh damn, like would it really be like that? It's almost like thinking, like, are they doing this in the movie just to be dramatic or whatever, or are they doing this just to be like, I don't know, comical or something? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, for sure in the second one.
Oh
I mean,
yeah, the second one for sure.
The gore is so excessive, and it's just, I mean, it's played for more comedy than horror.
Like
but
when that one guy gets dragged like into the basement, and then it just seems like a water hose is just
oh yeah,
spraying.
just so much blood, like a ridiculous amount of blood is just spraying up at him. Yeah, there's lots of stuff like that, or the part, and excuses, because I feel like this conversation we're gonna kind of talk about both of them. Like it's hard not to talk about, there's so much about them that are, I mean, they're similar in so many ways. I mean, the second one is basically like a comedy remake of the original one.
Yeah.
Kind of just told in a different way, but it's the same story. But it's, a group of friends. In the original one, there's 4 friends who go, or I think these friends that go to a cabin in the woods, and they discover the Necronomicon, or the Book of the Dead, and these demons. Basically, everyone gets possessed within like the first 40 minutes of the movie. Like everyone's possessed by these demons, and yeah, it's pretty crazy. There's a lot of gore. The first one is definitely is a little more serious. It does have
for sure.
It does have some of that slapstick kind of comedy in it, but not nearly as much as Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2. But it's kind of there. And Ash is kind of the main character, who I don't know what it was like to watch this movie when it came out, because I always knew Bruce Campbell was the main character, but when it came out, I think a lot of people thought that Scotty was kind of the main character, and then it turns out that Ash was the final guy. So a lot of horror films, they always have the final girl, and I kind of like how they made the final girl a guy, but he has a girl's name, so I think that's kind of a play on that.
That's kind of fun.
His name's Ashley, but he's a guy.
Ashley.
Yeah, and in the first movie, Bruce Campbell is very much, he's kind of shy, and he's a lot more, he's kind of quiet and not as I don't know. He's not, like, when you think of Ash, like once you've seen him and all the movies and stuff, like he's not the hero. Well, he kind of becomes the hero in the end of the first one, but then when you watch the second one, he like when the movie starts off, he's already, you can tell he's cocky, he's kind of a badass, and he turns into this. He really is like he's one of the most iconic horror characters in a horror movie ever.
Awesome. I feel like he fits the role so perfectly. Like looking back and like watching it, when
Hmm.
I see him like in that I never watched the new series, but like seeing him like reprise his role and then looking back at it, I'm like, yeah, he was perfect for it. Like,
Yeah, yeah, he's great.
it's just
I
like the
love him.
one-liners that he had and like the way that he acted as well, like just like with all like the gore and like the stuff splashing his face and how he like reacted to it, and it's just so
He's
impressive.
he's covered in blood and slime and stuff so much in these movies. It's so fun. Um, but yeah, so I mean, what what did you think of the first movie, like as a whole? Like, what was
I
your
mean, I completely
experience
agree
watching it?
with you. Like, watching the first one, the second one, the first one, I felt like, okay, yeah, like, yeah, this is gory, like, this is kind of serious. Like, um, it's interesting to see how everybody just became so possessed so quickly and how they're trying to escape. And it had that, like, scare factor to it where that one girl that first got possessed, like, she's trying to run from away from it, but then they get trapped because the bridge is, like, blown up or whatever. So like I had a lot of factors of that. But then the second one I found myself just kind of, you know, having that suspense with it, but more so it was like you said, that slapstick in a sense, comical um parts that they had, where he's like kind of going crazy and all of the objects in the house are like laughing and then he starts laughing with them and
Hmm.
the deer like is looking like it's what's it called? Oh shoot. Well, the deer just looks like it's messed up and it's laughing. The lamp is laughing. The books are laughing. Like the whole house, in a sense, is like came to life. And he's,
Yeah.
just like that whole scene. Like in a sense, you're like, I don't know if I should be laughing too, or like, is something gonna happen? And so I definitely enjoy the second one a lot more in a sense than I guess the first one. But I equally enjoyed how they both told the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah. That's fun. Yeah, I love him. I think and with the first one, it was so uh it was groundbreaking at the time because it was so well done, and for such little budget that the movie had, they were able to achieve so much with I mean, the directing is great, the cinematography is really
yeah, I
amazing
love
with
how
some of
they.
the
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say I love how they like showed like the camera swooping in and following the characters,
yeah.
but you don't see anybody.
Yeah, they're really creative with the way that they move the camera and like with the zooms and um with when the camera is like rushing like through the forest and they have that and then there's the sound design,
Mm.
like you feel like you don't see that demonic presence, but you just are, it's that like POV camera. And I think I saw there's something I think with a lot of those shots, the way they did it is they like put a camera on the back of like a dirt bike or something.
Hmm.
Um,
Makes sense.
yeah, but yeah, like I mean, there's so many cool shots with the camera going over Ash's head, and um, it's
Or
a lot
even
of
at the end of like the first Evil Dead, where it like rushes through the house and then like it ends with like it going like right on him in a sense. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like attacking him. You just see it
yeah,
quickly going and then it goes through the whole house. And even like in the second one, how they start with that, like it was like when it was chasing him throughout the house, you didn't see anybody chasing him, but you just saw him reacting to it. And
hmm,
I thought that was so unique. So, and with
yeah, I
like
love
the
that.
smoke and the fog, and then you have the trees like coming to life, and just
Hmm.
the whole everything was just hunting them. And so,
Yeah, I think it does a great job like establishing like this really creepy atmosphere with all the fog and the trees and just the way that the camera moves, and then the score of the movie, and that sound that you hear when you're in that like POV perspective of that presence or whatever. It's just like it really, I think it really works. Um, and it is creepy, and it actually, like watching it again, I'm like, this is actually I mean, there's some stuff that's kind of scary, and then there's a lot of the scenes that like the one of the scenes that I can never get out of my head is when um she has the pencil and and she stabs her
Oh
in the
yeah.
ankle. Like that's
Ugh.
one of the ones I'm like, oh no, I can't.
It's funny how like those kind of movies, like when it has something like that, you always remember it because it reminds me of the Wax House or whatever. I'm
Uh-huh.
pretty sure in that movie, like something happens to a similar character where the guy's like hiding behind something and he snips the Achilles of like someone. And
Oof.
it's those scenes, it's something like that where you're always gonna remember it, and definitely with
Hmm.
that pencil, you're gonna remember that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's so many things in these movies, like scenes like that, that they're just so
Ugh.
memorable and iconic. Uh, it's great.
It's
But
funny
yeah, and
how it's
this.
always like little wounds like that that you remember. It's not like someone getting,
Oh yeah, when there's.
stabbed in the chest or something or like the
Hmm.
head. It's like an Achilles getting snipped or a pencil going through like your foot or by like the your ankle. It's
Yeah, that's so true because there's so many crazier things that happen in
yeah.
these movies, but that's like the one that's like, ouch, like I felt that
Yeah,
that
exactly.
that one hurt.
And I feel like directors do a good job with that when they have the audience themselves like maybe reaching down and like grabbing their ankle because like they almost feel like they can feel it. So yeah, I
Heck
enjoyed it.
yeah, yeah, I love it. I I saw I so this movie too is also it's a movie that I've heard in in numerous different occasions, like watching interviews with like random filmmakers, or it could, I don't even know. I've heard just so many times, like different people who have talked about Evil Dead and how inspiring it was to them because it was such a low budget thing that didn't wasn't produced by a studio and it was just um I mean, and like Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi have been like they were friends like since I don't know, since I don't know how long they were friends, but they've been friends like their whole life, and they just made this movie, and it inspired a lot of people that they could. They're like, oh, I'm gonna make movies, um, which I think is cool. And Stephen King, I think he had a big part in how um, kind of helped this movie get as big as it was when it came out, because he kind of gave like a rave review of it and said that it was one of his favorite horror films, and he said it was like his fifth
Hmm.
favorite horror
Yeah.
film of all time or whatever. Um, and that definitely helped it. And I know that there was like a big thing in like Fangoria magazine at the time. Like they had a huge article about it, and they talked a lot about it in Fangoria. And this is one of those movies that everyone had to see. And it was I think I don't know if what was it rated NC-17 or rated X or something like that. Like it wasn't rated R, um, and the fact that that it had a rating like that and it was able to, um, I think it. Oh, I have a note here. I think it grossed something like 30 million worldwide, but its budget was like I know it's maybe only like a fraction of like $1 million. I don't remember how much, but but it was a big hit and became you know one of the most important cult films that's ever existed. And I really enjoyed it. And I've always, Evil Dead 2 has always been my favorite of the Evil Dead movies. But watching the Evil Dead, the first one again, um, I appreciated it even more. Because I've seen Evil Dead 2 so many times, but I haven't seen Evil Dead as many. Because I just thought Evil Dead 2 is just so funny. And when I first saw that, I was like, wow, this I've never seen anything like this before. And I just thought it was so funny, and I loved how just the timing and the practical effects are so great and just so insane. Um, and but watching the first one again, it made me really appreciate it, and I really love them both. Like probably kind of equally. I probably still like the second one more, but I appreciate the first one so much more now. Um, but yeah, it's pretty great.
And you said that you've watched the TV series, correct?
Yeah, like the first season, I think.
And there's only
I don't.
two. How many seasons are there
I
again?
think there's like 3 or 4, maybe. I think there might be 4. I need to look. Um,
And did you ever watch like the one that came out in 2013?
yeah, I did. Um, that one's. I really actually liked the remake. A lot of people don't. I don't think it's as good as Evil Dead 1 or 2, but it does a good job of kind of recreating the first movie, but kind of making it feel new and modern. Um, and it didn't even try to. I think part of why people didn't like it is because there's no Bruce Campbell. Like it's not
Yeah.
about Ash. It's a different thing. There's different characters. They didn't even try because they knew it would be like how can you top that? So they tried to go for something a little different. And you don't get any great characters like Ash, obviously, the but the movies, from what I remember, I thought it was pretty good. I definitely thought it was one of the best like horror remakes that I've ever seen. But a lot of people would probably disagree with that. But it's worth watching. Uh, it's just different. It's different. It's very similar, but also very different at the same time. But it's worth checking out. I think all of the Evil Dead movies and show, it's all worth watching.
It definitely has a lot scarier of because I remember seeing the trailer for that, and that's when I guess like the Evil Dead like series and everything. Like I know that they were in relation.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the newer one in 2013 definitely looks a lot more um suspenseful and frightening, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely. I think it is pretty scary, uh, and intense.
Like why do you think like the newer ones like do you think it's just because they have better like effects to be able to do things? Or like why do you think like some of these older ones like some people might say that they're terrifying but not as scary as some of these other movies that maybe have been released later, like the last couple years or so. What's your
Um,
feeling?
wait, what is the question here?
Oh, I'm just asking.
What are you asking me?
No, I'm just asking like why do you think like the remake of Evil Dead might be a lot more like scarier than like the older ones? Or like some of these
Um,
other scary movies that have come out like in the last 5 years, like why do you think they have such a more frightening experience than like some of these classics that everybody thinks is like The Exorcist or Halloween or something like that?
I don't know. I think it's just one of those things where I think it's possible to make like making a new horror film. I think it I don't know. I just think with the way movies are made now and with like the access to technology and being able to do different things with movies. And then also just because I feel like in a lot of ways horror films have progressed a lot and they've kind of changed over time. And I think that newer like new filmmakers, for example, like they've learned, they grew up watching The Evil Dead and
Mm-hmm.
The Exorcist. Like they grew up watching those movies and they wanted to make their own movies, and so they kind of had like this whole pool of influence where some of these older filmmakers, they were influenced by like like the monster movies, like they watched like the Wolfman and stuff like that, so they didn't have The Exorcist or in some of those cases. And I just think that I think that there are some older movies that are scarier than newer movies, and there's some newer movies that are scarier than older movies. I think that in this case, with the newer one, I I think part of it is with the gore. Even in the first one, the gore, the movies, the movie's more serious, and it is playing it for scares, but some of the effects are
Yeah.
um it doesn't look as realistic, and I think in like
Well,
this
especially the
new one.
second one, the second one where
Well,
the
yeah.
body's dancing.
Yeah, and the second one, they're not trying to scare anyone at all. They're just trying to make a freaking Three Stooges movie with gore, you
Oh,
know?
pretty much, yeah.
Um, but with the new one, from what I remember, a lot of the like the kills and the gore and stuff, it's still really kind of ridiculous, but it's not ever comical, and it's really kind of dark. And I think some of the gore effects look pretty real, and they do some kind of crazy things. But yeah, I don't know. Good
I'm just
question.
wondering, like, if we're required now more to, like, in order for something to scare us, it has to be something like that. Because, I mean, I'll admit, like, before I watched, like, Evil Dead and stuff, I was a little nervous, especially, like, The Exorcist or any of these other ones. But, like, after, I mean, yeah, I had, like, some suspenseful moments, but I don't feel like it was, like, any of these newer, like, scary movies that I've watched have come out, like, maybe more in my lifetime, where I look at those and I'm like, man, those were some terrifying movies. And
Like
so,
what? Like what are some movies that you think are that you've seen that are really scary? I'm just curious. Like what do you think are like the
well, I
scariest
mean,
movies that you've seen?
I can't think of like really off the top of my head, but like I remember watching the trailer like this week for Evil Dead, and I was like,
Uh,
well, I want to see the trailer for the one that came out in 2013. And watching
mhm.
that trailer, like just that trailer made me more terrified than both of these movies. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so it's just kind of I'm just curious like why maybe some of these newer ones like are do we need to be does more need to happen? Because I wouldn't say necessarily gore needs to be influenced to make a movie scary. I'm not saying that, but I'm just curious like how maybe it's just probably the design, it's probably the effects, like all that stuff has a huge play.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
like in
Good
Evil
question.
Dead 2, there was like some goofy parts, like where the corpse is dancing. And obviously, you're like, oh, wow, that's just bad. They didn't have the technology or whatever. But I mean, there's still like was a lot of parts where, I mean, yeah, it was suspenseful in a sense, but just that trailer, like the whole trailer, like everything seemed um, scary, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely yeah. It's it's dark, and it is. I think it is kind of scary from what I remember. You should watch it and let us know next week.
Oh shit. Well, okay, okay.
I want to watch it again because uh, I'm curious because I thought that I liked it, but I keep seeing so many people that really don't like the new one, and so I'm
Mhm.
like, wait, was I just wrong? Is it actually not good?
No, I definitely want to
Or
watch it, to be honest. I want to see the differences between them.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting.
So,
But cool. Yeah, that's a good question though. I like it.
well, were some like you were talking about how like some older ones are scary. Like, where are some older scary movies that you can think of
Uh,
that like if you watched again, like you would be in a sense,
I don't know. I think
or even
like
new ones?
good questions. Good questions. Well, to me, so one of the scariest movies that I've seen recent years, I think that Hereditary was really
Yeah.
scary. Um, I know a lot of people didn't think that, but I think it was one of the scariest movies that I've seen in a while. I think The
Oh
Witch is
yeah.
scary. I
Hmm.
think It Follows is pretty scary. Um, I do think that in general, I'd probably agree with that though. That I'm probably scared by like some of the better new horror films that are scary. I um I think that there's probably more newer ones that scare me more than older movies. But there's a lot of older ones too that still kind of I don't know, get under my skin in some ways. Like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's something about that movie that, that movie doesn't really have any gore or anything. It's another like really low budget movie, but there's something about that movie that just scares me.
Hmm.
Um, I can't really think of what else exactly, but um,
Happy Death Day. Just kidding.
Happy Death Day. Yeah, and then some movies that are so there's some horror movies that are just supposed to be fun, like Happy Death Day or Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. Like those are horror movies, but they're not necessarily scary movies. You know?
No, yeah, makes complete sense. I was just curious, like what
Yeah.
you thought.
Ye. Um.
Just beware of the Slender Man.
Yeah, man.
So, what would
Yep.
you give Evil Dead, and Evil Dead 2 on a ranking?
You go first, and then I'll go. I want to hear yours before I go, and then I'll have you guess what I'm gonna give.
Well, I can totally guess you're gonna give them both 5 stars, or Evil Dead 4.5, and then Evil Dead 2 5. But I give them both 4.5 stars. Definitely
dang.
enjoyable and everything. So, yeah, for sure, 4.5.
I had previously, like on Letterboxd, I had Evil Dead as 4 stars, and I had Evil Dead 2 as 5 stars. And I think after watching them again, I think I'd give them both 5 stars.
Yeah.
I just love them, and yeah, you could expect me to probably give like every movie we watch this month. I'm probably gonna give them all 5 stars, to be honest.
Well, I mean,
Maybe.
we have like a lot of good ones that we're gonna be watching,
Yeah, we're
this
watching
month.
mostly good ones.
Mostly good ones.
Mostly good ones.
I had a little bit of a hiccup with Punishment Park.
No, that's still a good movie. I think it was really good. It was funny when you text me. You're like, well, that's not at all what I was expecting.
Where was the
Um,
spooky?
yeah. Um, so not quite like not necessarily like a Halloween kind of, but what is? I mean, you can watch whatever the hell you want, whatever's scary.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, man. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to say about Evil Dead 1 or 2. Um, I
Oh, what? So what do you, what's the timeline like? What do you think it's? Because I asked you about it yesterday. Because the first one and the second one, I was confused by like where it was supposed to take place and stuff.
uh-huh.
Do you have an answer?
Yeah, the answer is Evil Dead 2 is just a remake. Like it's a different movie. It's
Okay,
basically it's literally like a remake of the first one.
just because they have
Just
the
because now they have the money, and I think they
yeah.
just wanted to make something. They just wanted to go back to it and make something kind of different, and they just decided to. I don't know why exactly, but they decided to kind of just remake it.
Oh, I'm reading something where Campbell was saying that they didn't own the rights to their own movie,
Oh,
so so we shot a recap with different actors as though it was a recap of their first movie, but people thought he's coming back to the same cabin with these new people. So it's
oh, that's funny.
a requel.
A requel.
So yeah, you were right.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, as I was watching, I was like, because I thought the same thing. I'm like, so, well, I mean, really, what I thought was maybe because at the end of the first one, it shows him in a sense getting like that spirit or whatever, like that rushes towards him through the cabin. Like I thought maybe, oh, he's just possessed, and now in order for him to like not be possessed or something, like the evil spirits have him make sacrifices for him or something like that. So like he has to have people come to this cabin. But then quickly, like that theory was shot down when he's like, "Oh, hey, like what's this? What's this tape recorder kind of thing?" And then he's like listening to it, and like it's going, and I was like, "No, this isn't." So it makes
Yeah.
complete sense, like by everything, like why it would. So it's almost like Evil Dead 2 goes into Army Darkness, and then so just the
Yeah.
first one. It's just interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is interesting. For sure. And even
But
though
I
they're
enjoyed
so similar, they're so different too. Like, and
Oh
they're
yeah,
both
for sure.
good in their own ways. But yeah. Very
So
fun.
next week, what movies are we doing?
I don't know, man. What movies are we doing?
I know my pick is M, and that movie is on HBO Max, I believe. So you can watch it there.
Sweet. And then my movie is Basket Case.
Basket Case. And where's that again?
I think it's on Tubi.
Tubi?
Yeah.
Tubi.
I think it's also. Let me look at this real quick. If you don't, I don't remember how bad the ads are on Tubi, because wow, on what was it? When I watched The Exorcist, I started watching it on like the AMC app, and
Yeah,
there's so many ads on that. Like I'm okay with some, but
Tubi I think does like 3. I want to say
okay,
3,
that's
depending on how long the movie is. I
that's
want to say
fine.
3.
That's fine.
But AMC, like I remember it was like 10 minutes in and they were doing a commercial and I was like, nah, I'm just gonna buy the movie. I'm not I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah, it was a little excessive. I was like, this sucks, and you can't do anything about it. You're just like, shoot. So that kind of sucked.
When I feel like it just takes you out of the movie too when you have like all of these
Yeah, especially when there's so
commercials
many
happening.
of them. Like every 10 minutes. It's like, all right, I'm done. But yeah, it seems like Tubi's not as bad. I just can never remember. I'm like, wait, is it bad or is it not bad? Because I can't remember which ones are. Because some of them are fine. Like there's some things like where I'm like, oh, I don't mind watching the ads because there's only a few and it's not that bad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's only like 3, maybe
Not
4.
bad. Not bad.
No.
And if it is bad, it's available to rent for like 99 cents. And I actually, I bought it a little while ago because it was on sale, and it's still on sale. It's like $2.99 to buy on
not bad.
iTunes. So if you feel like owning it, you can buy it on iTunes for like $3.
Ooh. Tempting.
So I'm excited for you to watch it. I think, yeah, I think if you like Evil Dead 2, you might like this movie. Have you ever heard of it before?
Yeah, I've heard of Basket Case.
Okay. It's another kind of horror comedy kind of movie. So I'm excited to watch it and talk about it with you.
We should have just watched all the Scary movies. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Scary Movie 1, 2, 3, 4. How many did they make?
I think 5 or something.
Too many.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, sounds good. M and Basket Case.
Sounds good.
All right. See you later.